On the agenda tonight, we're going to be having a listen to Simon and Garfunkel performing Bridge Over Troubled Water in 1981 and 2009. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, we've had another request in the comments section, this time to take a look at an act that were considered and just sound pitch perfect throughout all of their performances, all of the records, their live performances. They're harmonizing just spot on. What we're going to be having a listen to, first of all, is Art performing Bridge Over Troubled Water just on his own in 1981. As is always going to be the case with these videos, as soon as there's a request in the comments section that does deal with artists or bands that are very well known, and then I find out that they've been auto-tuned, I will bring that to you as soon as I know, so that everybody gets an idea of what's going on and to give you guys an idea of the playing field that music is now being played on, that it isn't level at all. So anyway, we're going back to 1981 to begin with, and we have the pitch monitoring software up on screen. So we will see the line come in from the right hand side of the screen, and it will go over to the left, and that is going to be Art's voice, and you can see the pitch on the left hand side. So it's plotting the pitch of his voice in a continuous line. Sometimes the software doesn't hear the vocal all the time, and because it's taken from a live performance, you sometimes hear a little bit of the crowd that has managed to make its way into the isolated vocal track, but you'll just see it as a line, and this is Art's voice live back in 1981. Let's have a listen.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down.
And there we have it. So let's go through these vocal waveforms on the screen, and we can really start to get an appreciation of how accurate Art Garfunkel was as a vocalist, hitting pitches just dead on for most of I'm talking about being dead on but not through auto-tune, just being so accurate. But the good thing is, because waveforms never lie, we can see the difference between a natural voice and one that has been auto-tuned, and I am taking this as the natural original vocal from 1981. So going back to the beginning, the tiny giveaways that we get, just signifying that this is not auto-tuned, of just the fact that we are a little bit random as to where the notes hit the lines. They don't stay on the lines all the time. And this is a great example here, where the note starts on the line and then he just ascends a little bit with vibrato. So we're above the line, and here he was flat. But I'm going to put a link in the description below to this performance in 1981. Have a listen to it, and I guarantee you that you will think this is on the lines the whole time, because it sounds so accurate throughout the whole performance. It is faultless to the human ear. It's only when you start to put the waveforms in at 440 hertz tuning, equal temperament, You only then get to see where the notes fall slightly sharp, slightly flat, but to the human ear, it sounds perfect. Check out that performance if you haven't already. When I said about being so accurate, here's another giveaway that we're not auto-tuned. The fact that we are flat of the G3 here, we're flat of the F3, but you're not going to notice this when you're listening to it. And then we are slightly flat, and then we ascend through the line. So he's not quite on pitch, but then he's pretty much getting to pitch. This is, I would say, the most accurate vocal that we've seen so far in this auto-tune set of videos that we've been starting over the last few weeks. Look at how accurate he is here, just slightly flat, but maintaining that flat note just underneath the A sharp 3 here. So ever so slightly flat, and look, just ever so slightly sharp, but pretty much dead on. Again, here, pretty much spot on to equal temperament. And this is where you start to get an appreciation for what a natural voice looks like and what an auto-tune voice looks like. So here you get a little bit of a wave to where the waveform is plotted, where we just go a little bit sharp here, but then we come back down again. And we'll have a little look on again. Again, pretty much dead on here. I know that we are slightly flat, and we're slightly flat, and then we're slightly sharp, and then we come down. Again, these are waveforms of what I would consider a pretty natural voice. I know that you could probably get close to this with pitch correction, and I'll mention that a little bit later on, but just look at the ascension with the voice, and that's why it's not being snapped to a line. Let's have a little look further on. And again, we get an appreciation of how accurate he is. But again, it's a little bit random. If we're following the median of these waveforms, we're going down and then going up. We're starting up, we go down, we go up, and then we're slightly sharp here. We then slightly flat, and then we descend down to the note. Just to listen to the end of this vocal section, look away from the screen and listen to Art's voice and tell me that it doesn't sound perfect tuning-wise.
Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down.
And then when we take it back to look at the waveforms, again, great example right on that last note, how we start a little bit sharp, we then go down, and we go sharp again, and we come down. And actually, I mean, the other lines are quite difficult to see in between. So I've just made the lines a little bit brighter so we can get more of an appreciation of where the notes are falling, and especially on the semitones and, you know, the sharps that we've got here labeled on the left-hand side. Those lines were a little bit too dark in order to see, but here, by going through that final vocal phrase again, we can start to see exactly where we're slightly sharp, and again, a slight bit of ascension there through the note, but pretty much dead on. And again, here we can see that we were flat, and yeah, we did in fact get up to the line, and then went a little bit flat again. So there's lots of tiny imperfections in just a held note that really do stand out when it's a natural voice, but then when you flip to auto-tune, you don't get those imperfections. So let's have a listen to the performance in 2009 and see what these vocal waveforms are up to.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down.
And there we have it. At this point in the performance in 2009, it's where Paul Simon then takes to the mic, and that's why everyone's cheering, because they can see him just about to produce the vocal. But let's take this back, and I'm sure you guys could hear immediately that this is auto-tuned, and not just because of maybe looking at the screen, seeing the waveforms, you now know how to read them, so you know it's auto-tuned, but just the sound of the voice. It is so different when you put somebody's voice through auto-tune, and this just changes the personality. It's now like there's a computer in charge of Art's voice, which is actually exactly what's going on. And I'm saying that this is auto-tune rather than pitch correction. Pitch correction is done after the fact in the studio, and you can apply auto-tune in the studio. The reason that I'm saying it is auto-tune is because it is so bad. It has been applied so harshly to the voice. I don't know how people can listen to this in the studio and then say, oh yeah, that's spot on, it sounds great, let's release this on YouTube as a video, let's have this as the official release. Nobody's going to be able to tell that we've auto-tuned Art's voice, and they've auto-tuned Paul's voice as well, which is, they've just applied it really harshly across the board on this performance. So I can't believe that this even gets through any kind of quality control. The problem is that nowadays, I alluded to it earlier in this video, it's no longer a level playing field, because so many artists are having, and so many artists of the current generation are having their vocals auto-tuned and pitch corrected. So when you then go back to a band such as Simon and Garfunkel, and you're listening to their vocal, given the fact that back in the day, they just sounded pitch perfect all the time, and they were. That's the point. To the human ear, they were spot on. But now, they're going to be judged by record labels looking at lines, and they go, oh, hang on, they missed a line there, whereas this artist that we're producing at the moment, who's a current day artist, we've put his voice on the lines. So we better do that with Simon and Garfunkel, because they want to be as good, or seem to be as good, as the current generation. But everybody doesn't know that the current generation aren't using their natural voices. They're using the computer software to get themselves to this note perfectly. So you might have the current generation saying, oh, when we look at this kind of software, we can see that our favourite singer was more accurate than Simon and Garfunkel back in the day, so that means they are better. And it means that the record labels are now taking, I mentioned about and did a video on Freddie Mercury now being auto-tuned. The record labels are auto-tuning the old artists, all of the legends from back in the day. They're now auto-tuning them and re-releasing them, almost like it's a competition to say, oh yeah, the artists from 30 and 40, 50 years ago, they hit the notes dead on as well, so they are as good as the current day artists. No, they were better than the current day artist, because the current day artist can't hit the notes as well as the artist could back in the day, because you can't judge quality and how good something is by looking at lines on a graph, because that's man-made. This has been developed. 440 hertz tuning, equal temperament, has been developed by humans. And that's not how music works. It's not regimented. When you start applying auto-tune, it now sounds regimented. The human ear can tell something is up. This is a bit weird compared to a human voice. And this is why a lot of people can hear auto-tune, and some people can't hear this. And that's why I think a lot of people have got a problem with it. When they then realise, hang on, they're auto-tuning Simon and Garfunkel, they're thinking, what? Why are you doing that? It was perfect in the first place. I don't want anybody to mess with how perfect it was when it was first released. Unfortunately, with live performances and even with official releases, they are starting to auto-tune these things, which, like I said, as soon as I notice it, I'll bring it to your attention. I believe that I would have been able to do a better job with taking a pitchy vocal from Art and just applying pitch correction, doing it as subtly as possible, but not butchering it like they have done here, just sticking it to the lines so ridiculously. Even in the screenshot we're looking at here, Look, I mean, I haven't selected this as a bad example, but look how we are just on the line, on the line, on the line, on the line. It's just getting snapped all the time. And if I go all the way back, you'll be able to see, and you guys start to now see this as a bit of a catchphrase saying dead on the line, but you can see how it has just been snapped and butchered to the lines all the time. That's why it sounds weird. The problem is that a lot of the older generations of artists now, when they're releasing literally now, they might be doing a new album, they're competing with other bands and other artists that are being auto-tuned. So you might find, and I'm going to look into this, so fear not, I'm going to look into artists that were around 40, maybe 50 years ago, if they release anything new, whether it has been auto-tuned or not. I think personally, if they just said to hell with auto-tune and pitch correction, if they said that to the record label, they would sell more because it would sound like the music that their fans fell in love with. As soon as you start applying a computer to your voice, it's going to change the fundamental feel, the expression, everything that people loved about that original band and artist is going to be different. And then on a deeper level, you can make the argument to say that if a band now release another album and they are using pitch correction and auto-tune, that they've given in, that they're potentially the same as the other artists who aren't as good but are being pitch corrected and auto-tuned, they're now the same as those bands because they're using the same software. Their voices are going to be at exactly the same level. And the thing that made them great 40 years ago or 50 years ago, they've now lost. And the bands that actually don't have that, what these other bands had 40 or 50 years ago, they are now on an equal level. So you think that you're losing what made you special back in the day. But just having a quick scroll through here, the auto-tune version of Art's voice, whenever there's a held note, you can see here it is dead on the line and there's no variation in how accurate it is on the line. Like I said, this is just ridiculously snapped to the line the whole time. I'm just going to take this back to here, the very last note that Art holds in 1981 to begin with.
I will eat your mind.
And there we have it. So that was the natural voice. And by the way, we have had a key change between the two performances. So the one in 2009 is a semitone lower. So that's why it might sound a little bit weird when we jump from one to the next, because they're in different keys. Anyway, taking this back, having a look at this vocal waveform.
I will eat your mind.
Just take this G4, so accurate to start with, but because this is an auto-tune, Art then goes a little bit sharp, and you can hear that if you're listening closely to his voice, but then he manages to come back down again, dead on, but then is flat, so he slightly overcompensates, because he does go quite flat under the G4, but then compensates again to just sharpen his voice up to the G4. So you get all of this variation, this little journey that you have, because the vocal cords aren't stuck in a particular position. They're ever so slightly vibrating, slightly sharp, slightly flat, but you get an appreciation of how accurate he was with that particular note. Great example there. Again, if I'm drawing through the middle of these waveforms, look at the variation we get. It's not a straight line to put my cursor through it. We're going up, we're going down, we're then leveling off, we're then ascending again, and then descending. So let's get rid of that and load up the auto-tuned final note.
I will eat your mind.
And there we have it. So that's the final note from 2009. And you might be able to see the difference there as we take it back. The difference is in the imperfection, because here with the note, you can see if I'm now trying to draw right through the middle of these waveforms, I would be on the line. I can't go through the waveforms. And here at the end of the vocal phrase, when you hit the last consonant of the word, that will throw the tuning off a little bit, but then we get back into it. And let me just move forward again. So on this second part, the vocal just continues. And again, if I'm trying to get right through the middle, I'm going to be directly on the line. Right through the middle is directly on the line all the way across. So all of this kind of waving up and down that we get with a natural voice, it doesn't happen with autotune. So as you guys can understand, I could talk about this kind of stuff all night. And it is interesting in that some comments we get, people can hear it, other people can't hear it. Some people are really surprised to know that this even goes on at all. And a very small percentage of people, in fact, today I had a comment where somebody said, what's the problem with autotune? Should we start getting rid of microphones and amplifiers? And I just want to explain that that's a totally different thing. Amplifying somebody's voice and putting autotune on it, amplification doesn't change the pitch of somebody's voice. So say, for example, I'm a singer and I can't hit a note for love nor money. I'm always flat, and it's offensively flat. If I have a microphone and I use an amplifier and I turn up the volume really loud, I'm still going to be flat. I'm still going to sound bad. I'm not getting anywhere near the note. If you play guitar, imagine the microphone is your guitar. Your microphone / guitar goes into a reverb pedal, a delay pedal, a chorus pedal, flanger. Whatever you want to use, it goes into the pedal and then it goes into an amplifier which makes it louder. So once I've sung or I've played a line on the guitar, that's now going along my wire into my effects. The effects are then affecting it or affecting the signal that I've given it to then be amplified out of the amplifier. And it literally comes out of a lead on its way to the amp, and then you hear the final result. So in both of those situations, for my vocal or my guitar, I've had to produce it first. So I've had to sing in key, ideally, but if I'm singing flat, if I'm playing a guitar line and I'm flat all the time, it's going to sound just as bad as somebody singing flat all the time. We've gone through to the effects and they've added reverb, delay, or whatever, and they're still coming out of the amp sounding flat because they haven't been edited. As soon as you put auto-tune in the mix, auto-tune is changing my voice. So I haven't even gone into the microphone yet. That's what's happening. It's literally set to 0.0 milliseconds. So even though I'm singing into the microphone, you're not hearing what's coming out of my mouth into the microphone. You're hearing auto-tune placed on the mic. So before you've had any of those other effects have had a chance to get a hold of the signal, it's already been changed. It's changing the pitch of what's happening at the input, the signal that I'm making. If I had auto-tune on my guitar, it would auto-tune all of my bends exactly to the notes. It wouldn't let me do notes that happened in between the notes, which are called microtones. It wouldn't allow me to do any of those because it would be snapping to notes all the time. Let me also finish by saying that the use of auto-tune for artistic effect is totally different. You might have a singer who is a great singer, but they want that mechanical sound in a particular song. And Cher, I always say, is a great example, because if you listen to her in the verse, they use it really heavily, and then in the chorus allowed her natural voice to come out. So it's a great artistic use of the effect in 1998, and it was invented in 1997, so it was hot off the press at that point. But it's now starting to get used to hit notes where singers can't hit notes. And they're not telling everybody that they're using this in order to get the notes on live performances and in the studio. And I think that's where people have got a problem with it. Artistically using it, no problem at all. But using it to hide inadequacies in your technique and your vocal ability, that's where people have got a problem, because then people quite rightly say, well, why don't I be a singer? Because I can't hit notes either. And that's a valid question. Some people, when they sing karaoke, they might be flat by a semitone or even more than that, but if you were to just program in the scale you want for auto-tune, you would now be hitting the notes as well. But as always, thank you guys for the requests and the suggestions in the comment section. Keep those coming. Let me know what you guys think about this particular case and just the auto-tune thing in general. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!